activates constant elevation.
3, 2, 1. What is up, everybody? You are listening, you are watching to the Constant Elevation Podcast. I am your host, Gabe Brock, this time with a fully charged camera. Just gonna say that I double checked it last night and this morning and this afternoon, and so I appreciate very happy for everybody who tuned in last week. Hopefully some I can't see if they're returning listeners or new listeners. So if you haven't been listening to this on your as a podcast or on my YouTube channel, thank you for joining me again for season 5. It is great to be back in time to get into some. That first episode last week was just kind of an intro, like welcome everybody back to the season, or if you're first time subscriber, you already got here. Again, you can catch up to all my old content at constantelevation.co. But here we go. I'm excited for some brand new kind of material. And so there's a lot of times where so I watch a lot of, the wifey and I, we usually watch like movies. We usually have movie nights on Friday and Saturday. And this Saturday, I'm excited to go see the Batman. Batman is my favorite comic book character of all time, just to nerd out. But I'm excited to watch the Batman on Saturday. And then we usually watch like TV shows on during the weekdays. So I'm not going to go through the whole list, but we just, we're in a good cut. So one of the last movies that I saw was The King's Man. So it's like a prequel, right? If you watch The Kingsman or The Kingsman Golden Circle, really good show. And there's a line in there. So here's what's happening. Every time I'm either like watching something or reading something or listening to something, and I hear like a quote that kind of prompts me to like stop or be like, hey, I want to dive into that. I want to think about that. I end up yelling the phrase bars. Like, bars? Somebody's just dropping some knowledge. Somebody's just dropping a track right now. I wasn't ready for it. But so in the movie, The King's Man, there was a line in there, and I believe it's probably from a famous quote. I didn't do that much research on it. But there is no, I did research. Hold on a second. See, I'm a professional. It came from, I don't know where the quote came from. But basically the quote is, reputation is what people think of you, and character is what you are. Or who you are, probably. And so I wanted to dive into that. As soon as I saw it on the movie, I wrote that down in my bullet journal. I'm like, no, I want to dive into that. Because I think us as leaders and just as humans in general, there's this duality. There's always this constant kind of thing of here, I know who myself is, but then there's this other perspective of how other people perceive us. And that's what I would call the reputation, which is how other people perceive you. And your character is actually how you perceive yourself. And usually it has to be based on your actions. That's your character. And so I try to look at the lens of, hey, I'm going to talk about 2 different roles that I have. And so the first one, obviously, is an Air Force officer. So what is my reputation and what is my character as an Air Force officer? So I'm going to look off screen to my notes. So I wrote down, because I don't know if these are true. This is what I think my reputation is. I have no idea what my reputation is. Whenever people come up to me, they say they know me from something, and I'm like, ooh, I hope it's a cool story. Sometimes it's from the show. Sometimes it's just from work, or just, a friend of a friend kind of knows me or something like that. So you never know where reputation can really take you. But here's some thoughts that I think are potentially some of the statements related to my reputation. A hard-charging leader who sometimes does not wait for everyone prior to taking action. Has the ability to bridge operational and technical worlds, we think, and a potential snake oil salesman. Not kidding. So some of those things I've physically heard someone tell me that's how they described me, or that's I'm inferring that's what people probably think about me. But basically, it's just, based on my actions and how people perceive me. That's my reputation. And I started to think about this. If you go to constantelevation.co, you see my full show notes. I started getting last night I started getting like super poetic about something and these thoughts. So I started to think of like my reputation is just a shadow of myself. It's something that follows me all the time, but it's just kind of there, but it's not really me. It's a shadow of me, and other people are going to can potentially influence that, but there's really one piece that influences that shadow the most, and I'll get into that in a second. So I figured that was some of my reputation, right? It's not necessarily the full representation of me. It's just what other people think of me. So then I started writing, how did I write my character? What I believe is how I would define myself, and I want to perceive myself and conduct myself. And I would say this is the closest to the intent of me as a leader, the intent of me as an officer, of where I'm always going to try and come from. It doesn't always necessarily get to that point in execution, but that's my intent. So I wrote down, I believe I'm a hard-charging team player that overcomes fear others may have and takes action when no one else will. And so you can kind of correlate exactly which line I'm talking about from my reputation. It spends time with others to understand their perspective and finds common goals to work towards. And then finally, a charismatic leader who knows how to connect with any audience. So, obviously there's like a positive and negatives. The negative side would be the reputation and the positive would be my character. But like they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. Like, are they good, bad? Which one is the reality? I don't know which one is reality. All I can control is the one that I want to be. And that's through my actions and my own words. And that's always going to be character, right? Character is definitely going to be, it's the old phrase, actions speak louder than words. That's what I mean. That's what I think of when I think of character, because it's really big. It's really easy to just kind of say words. Well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I believe in these core values and I have this leadership philosophy. That's cool. But are you like that in real life, or is that just paper thin? Because if it is, guess what? Your reputation is going to go to shit. Like you are just an empty leader. You're not an authentic leader that the Air Force needs or that the world needs. You're just someone who knows how to say certain buzzwords and evoke an emotion, but you're just an empty shell. You're not a real one, to be frank. And so I don't know exactly how. But you can't like separate the two, right? My reputation as an Air Force officer. So part of it is going to be like, right now I'm going through the 06 boards in order to try and figure out what's going to be my next assignment. Although someone probably knows, and I should know by next week's episode. They just haven't told me yet. They're waiting till the last minute. And then going into the command selection board for group command. And so my reputation takes form of my records. So obviously there's things in there. But more importantly, I think, again, I've never been in this process before, it's probably what other senior officers think of me. And so that reputation is based on their experience with me, good or bad, whatever it is. Potentially like, hey, so I heard it from a guy or a girl that Gabe's like this, and maybe he's going to be right for this, or we need to keep him in a holding pattern and we need to prime him for this next thing. But like, sure, those are all people are doing it because I'm not in the room, and they are taking actions and making decisions based on my reputation. So I do have a power to influence their reputation, but only to a certain form, right? It only goes into so much. It goes into my OPR. It goes into how other people remember me, and they choose to either positively or negatively represent who I am. That's my reputation. So you have a degree of control over that, but I would say not really. Because inevitably we're all humans, and so it's going to be filtered in a certain manner, and it's still not going to be an accurate portrayal of you. All I know is I can control my character, and I've tried to do that throughout my entire career. As far as just being me, I have to look at myself in the mirror and say I'm the one that made these decisions. When I served as a squadron commander, I took all those decisions smartly and seriously. I didn't take myself seriously, but I took all my decisions seriously, and so that's what I needed to do. And good or bad or indifferent, my character, I had to make sure I was comfortable with who I was living with. And if I was starting to making decisions based on popularity, I just want everyone to like me, I don't want anyone to hate me. Now you're more worried about your reputation, which is potentially going to dilute your actual character, which I would argue is more important. I don't care about if you do the right things because they're the right things, your character is going to stay intact and your reputation will adjust accordingly. You don't have to worry about, there is no imbalance between the two, but you need to prioritize one over the other, because you can't ignore your reputation, but you really, really need to focus on your character, just as a person, but definitely as an Air Force officer. So then I started thinking about like you all know that I have several roles in my life, and one of the other roles is I'm a CrossFit coach. I'm actually a CrossFit level 2 trainer. I've been that for a couple years now. And so I started going through that mental drill. And this is actually something that I'm not kidding, I've been struggling with this for at least like a month, trying to understand my role within my team, within Revival Fitness, and what I provide to that team, and then what I feel comfortable doing and being a part of, to be honest. And so my reputation, so here's some, again, just potentially following the same thing, like my reputation could be a little bit more negatively themed, and then character is going to be a little bit more positive. So potentially my reputation is I'm a rebellious voice that may not always follow the established plan to a T. Yeah, probably true. A disruptor of comfortable conversations. And then finally, fosters an exclusive environment of us versus them. Okay, so that is a very, when I was writing this list, I was in my emotions. And I've been having several late night talks with my wife of like, this is really, really affecting some of my, not like a mental state. No, I'm going to be honest. It's affecting my mental state because it's making me like question who I am and what I want to be as a person and as a person and a leader. So then I go into my character. I believe my character is, I'm a freestyle leader that adjusts to the situation, yet keeps everyone pointed in the right direction. I provide critical discussion and potential solutions to observe problems, as well as I foster an inclusive group of like-minded individuals. And so you can kind of see like the two sides of how I'm painting those pictures. So I've been a coach since 2012 in some forms, and if you ever looked in my past, I have led 2 military affiliates as the head manager and the head coach. And then I've been blessed to be a part of some really good affiliates over the time. And then here in Revival Fitness, also known as CrossFit Vive, I've been a coach there for about 2 years. And so the weird things are happening as far as, do I need to really consider my reputation as a coach? Do I worry about what other people consider about me and think about me? Or do I continue to prioritize my goal? And my goal is to be one of the best coaches on staff. And that means whatever classes that I'm going to be assigned, I take care of that class and I execute to a T. I prepare my ass off to make sure that my classes are very well run. I know the athletes and I talk to them and interact with them, that I can understand their strengths and weaknesses and kind of lead them and guide them towards how they can become a better athlete and maybe a better person. Try to understand life situations. I checked in with a couple athletes I haven't seen in the gym in a while, and I heard some local news, and I hope that none of that bad news applied to them, and luckily it didn't. And so that kind of relationship, I want to be. I always use the term full service coach. That's what I imply. I'm not a person who just reads a workout off the whiteboard and then just watches you do it. I'm not that. I haven't been that for a long time. I'm also very comfortable in my skill sets of like, I can lead a class of like 22 at one point in time. I've led my squadron like 200 plus people at a PT session since I was a captain. So none of these things are intimidating to me. I know how to conduct myself. And so it's not a thing about considering myself better. I just know my skill sets and I want to be able to execute them. And so there's definitely some thoughts in my head of, we'll see exactly. And I'm actually, I've requested some feedback and I'm going to have some discussions where I'm going to be, just sharing my thoughts and opinions, where we're going to go. And depending on if there's nothing wrong, we just have a misalignment of perspectives and goals, then potentially Revival Fitness, and I'm going to be thankful for those 2 years that I've coached there, but I need to move on. I'm going to move on regardless this summer when I move, but it all depends on, maybe the tides have changed and this is just not the place for me. And that's not a knock. It's a great gym and I will highly recommend it to everybody. It's just potentially not the fit for me because my character is potentially not being compromised. It's just it's not aligned to where they're going. And there's nothing wrong with that. The businesses are how they're going to go, but I'm actually in a position to where I can make a decision to stay or leave. And this is kind of different. For the most part in my Air Force career, I've been assigned responsibilities and you're not allowed to until you're relieved of that duty or you're fired. So luckily, neither of those things has happened. I don't think it's going to happen here, but I just want to have a conversation with our management and just share my thoughts, and we'll see how it goes from there. But it got to the point where I was like, no, I need to go. I need to get this up. I need to get this off my chest because I feel like it was appropriate during my thought process of, if reputation is what people think of me and character is who I am, I'm going to prioritize character all the time, because maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I don't give a shit. Like it's way more important for me to maintain who I am. And no one in the gym is obviously making me do something I don't want to do, but like there's something off and I would like to have a conversation. And luckily I'm going to have that in the coming days. So we'll see exactly how the end of that story goes. But in the end, so I'm referring to my notes again, there's definitely some thoughts, some parting thoughts for you is, you need to be cognizant of your reputation, but you need to prioritize your character. You need to be able to look yourself in the mirror, and be confident and comfortable. Potentially you made a mistake, and that's okay. Potentially, you made a wrong choice. That's okay. What was your intent? I'm always going to be more interested in what's your intent. If you really were trying, you thought you were empowered with the right information, you're making a decision, or you're addressing a situation a certain way because you thought you were doing the right thing, but it ended up being wrong, that's still okay. I personally think your character is intact. If anything, your character is going to be sharpened a little bit, going to be forged in the fire, because those difficult situations, not even arguably, they definitely will make you a better leader. But if you avoid them, you start kind of being wishy-washy and trying to curate your reputation a little bit more, you're missing the point. You're almost like skipping an obstacle versus trying to overcome it. And that's where you're going to actually learn. That's where you're going to develop those skill sets and those experiences, and possibly the most important thing, the mindset of an authentic leader, somebody who's comfortable with themselves. You're not doing things because it's the popular thing to do, or you're too worried about too many things. Obviously, you have to take lots of pieces of information into consideration, but you better make sure you're doing the right choice. You better make sure you're making the right choice. So, team, that was my thoughts for this week. They did announce CrossFit 22.2, 10 minutes of deadlifts and burpees. I'll be doing it tomorrow morning, before or after I coach. Depends how I'm feeling or how early I get up. But it's going to be, I'm just going to do it, right? So that's like 100 deadlifts. First of all, I'm probably going to get time capped. So it's not going to be 100 deadlifts. I will probably get to at least to the number 10, and we'll see how it goes. 225 is a little bit heavy for me. But also, I have shit to do. Like, I have a weekend. I'm going to see Batman. I'm going to see the Batman on Saturday. I'm not trying to limp in there and not enjoy my nerdery. I want to be fully on. So my priority again is hosting a really good experience for my athletes and 6 a.m. We're going to have a good time. It's all black everything. It's going to be awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow morning, and then sharing with you some of my next thoughts. I have a whole bunch of potential topics here. I'm prioritizing which ones. I already know what's going to talk about next week, but I'm definitely excited to be back here for season 5. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. You can find all my content at constantelevation.co. And finally, next week, I will have an announcement about an additional platform where we can communicate. And I'm excited about that. And so until next week, guys, stay safe. We'll talk to you later. Peace.